Okay, these are the instructions to assemble the antenna, and we'll just go through all the bits and pieces you need. You'll have your antenna, you'll have your cable with the end connectors, you'll have the two stainless steel bracket components, you'll have 4 M4 screws and their associated lock washers and washers. You have the rubber feet. These are magnetized rubber feet with 5 M5 screws, their associated lock washers and washers. You also need 2 Allen keys appropriate for the M4 and the M5 screws. I think that's everything. Let's start first by you take the antenna connector, the end female, you connect it into the end male and you tighten this up, screwing the outside until it's moderately tight, not too tight, sort of finger tight, so it's like that. You'll then need to get about 20 to 25 centimeters of your rubber tape, and we'll just mark out about that. So I'll mark out 25 centimeters of rubber tape, approximately, doesn't need to be exact, and we'll cut that with scissors. And then we have our rubber sealing tape here. Now this is where we now have to seal the connector for waterproofness. Start below the connector and work your way up. So this is a self-annealing rubber tape, so it will stick to itself, and it can be a bit tricky to get off. Right. So you've got this, work your way from bottom here around, pulling on the rubber tape until it seals this connector, working from the bottom up. That way any water that gets in will not run down the joint. Make sure you seal it all nice and tightly. And get through as much of this as you can. Make sure this is all nice and sealed. Until it's sealed the right connector. When you're ready, the connector is ready to be installed. It'll be nice and sticky. The next thing we need to do is get the brackets here ready, and the way we're going to do that is we align the inner and outer bracket, and we get our 4 screws and we put these together, tighten these up. It's always fun doing this when someone's videoing you because you're under pressure. Yes, I am looking at the camera person. So yes, be careful with threading these. Make sure they thread neatly. You should never have to force it. If you're forcing it, you're doing something wrong. Don't force it. So just lightly screw these in. Wiggle it out, just tighten it up, making sure of course that the lock washer is on the outside, followed by standard washer on the inside. No confusion about that. So you should have this nice and loose with the lock washers on the outside and the washers on the inside. We then take our antenna, we can feed it in from the bottom, very carefully, push this out. You can feed it from the top or the bottom, doesn't really matter. Push this through until this bottom here lines up. And they just it up. And we'll now very carefully use the Allen key to tighten these up. Sometimes we need to, if it's too hard, you're doing something wrong. It shouldn't be too hard. Alright, so we want to make sure that these are fairly evenly separated here, so I'll just tighten these up until evenly separated. Make sure this all lines up neatly. One second, make sure this is wrong here. Loosen this up a bit. And make sure they're even on both sides as much as you possibly can. Tighten this up, lining this with the bottom. And then when we tighten these up, don't over tighten them, just tighten them so that the spring washer is compressed. Right, so the spring washer just needs to be compressed, not too tight. Right, so now that is well and truly secure. The last thing, of course, now is we mount our rubber feet, and we'll do so similarly to the other ones where we put the lock washer on the inside, followed by the standard washer, placing the feet underneath these holes, sliding these through and securing them. Careful, these magnets are quite strong and will stick together, so you kind of want to keep them separate as much as possible. Again, tighten so that the spring washer is locked, compressed. It's lock washer, washer. Pointing case in point, be careful, they are strong. And we'll screw that down into there. You can actually start by turning the base if you want. Turn them up. Last one. This is on the outside, of course. Everything sticks to it, be careful. Tighten this up just so that the spring washer is compressed. Not too tight. Never tighten it all too tight. And there we have it. And this will make sure the antenna cable is clear when it gets mounted on any surface. An example surface is as follows. And there you have it. It should be nice and tight, and it should mount neatly on any surface.